been a wild week, folks. Donald Trump has sparked a global trade war and even slapped tariffs on a tiny island in the South Pole that's inhabited only by penguins. But listen, that's only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the wacky ideas in Scottish sport. This is Game On, where we are completely free to export, and it's worth every penny. I'm Michael Gannon. I'm joined by Gavin Berry. You know the drill by now. We are going to break down the barriers and import our sporting knowledge to the public up against the clock. Did you like that, Gav? How was that?
Were you up all night doing that?
I was up for literally minutes doing that intro. But listen, we'll not muck about. We'll get straight to the show. First up, listen, I've been told through the years that size doesn't matter. It's what you do with it. But how about when it comes to Scottish football, does size matter? I mean, we're talking about 10, 12.
What time's this get out? I thought this was 4 o'clock on a Friday.
Post-watershed. We're talking about 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 22, 28, 144. Team League. What is the best setup for the Scottish top flight?
Honestly, Michael, when that story first appeared, I genuinely thought it could be an April Fool's.
Well, it happens every April, isn't it? Yeah.
Going out in April the 1st, I thought, are we being duped here? 10-team league, bonkers, nobody will go for it. We already know it's doomed to fail. I think if you're going
does that not get rid of the split? That we hate the split, don't we? People don't like the split.
Well, do we not?
Well, this is my question. Is the split? People moan about the split.
We've got 2 games to go and the split is exciting. No, look, it's not perfect the way it is just now, but I actually think sticking with the 12 team with the split is fine. If you're going to have to change, then it has to go to 14, 16. You have to find ways of getting... So, I mean, we look at Dunfermline with the Neil Lennon impact here. They're selling tickets are going like hotcakes for their game at the weekend.
Dunfermline haven't been in the top flight for 10 years.
No.
I think you finished the top 4 in the second flight for about 7 years.
Teams like
so why
that,
would they get in?
No, but teams like that, I'm just talking about the potential. Maybe not them specifically. Partick Thistle, look at Ayr United just now knocking on the door. You know, these teams could enhance the top flight. Healthy home crowds, travelling crowds, that's what we need to do. But if it's 10 or 12, we stick with 12.
We know that a bigger top flight, a 16 team or an 18 team would be probably the best in terms of... I think fans would like to see that.
18? I think you can't dilute...
Well, 16 teams, you're only getting a 30-game season, so then you have some kind of playoff set up at the end to get the games up, because you want to give people value for money as well. Yeah. So 16-team league doesn't give you enough games. 14-team, you end up with weird and wacky splits. Yeah, but you get the 6-8 split, the season can be half and 2. I mean, you see it across Europe. I mean, teams are trying this. I mean, in Austria, it's 12 teams, they split after 22 games. Mm-hmm. Your season can be done in December. The season can split and you can be up. You can be finished with the season.
But is that not part of the argument? It would allow managers to blood some youngsters, and just now there's too much of a fear factor. I saw Stephen Robinson.
This is the balance. But if you can blood the youngsters, or do you take the money from the TV deal that gets the 4 derby matches with Celtic, Hearts and Hibs, Dundee derbies, and all that stuff?
Whatever way you dress it up, you're going to have to keep the 4 derby matches. That's key to the broadcasting deal.
Well, that knocks out the 16-team one, unless you get a playoff set up after it.
Yeah, well, you could do that. Yeah, there's a way that you can do it with the playoff. More playoffs.
So basically, we're stuck with what we got. Is that what we're saying? We're just we need to like it or lump it.
I think so. No 10.
It's not perfect, but it's worked for 25 years. 25 years of the top 12 of the split and all that stuff. Anyway, more not close at home, but in terms of more important in the short term, you've got Rangers back in European action in April. Extraordinary again, another great run. Atletico Bilbao this week coming to Ibrox, tough test.
Yeah.
Can they get a result to go to Spain in the second leg?
Every time they play Rangers in Europe, in that run to Seville, and even just in kind of recent seasons, it's always... But now, finally, they'll meet a team that they can't beat. We thought that with Fenerbahce when they skipped and they got to it was Fenerbahce there, and then they beat Fenerbahce and it's now, but Athletic Bilbao will be too good. It was the same when they went to Seville. Dortmund will be too good. They seem to always...
It's funny how these teams are always terrible when they go...
Oh, I know. But
it's the worst Fenerbahce team ever.
I know. But it does seem, certainly on paper, we're talking about a team from La Liga challenging for a Champions League place in the Spanish top division.
Yeah.
On paper, it seems as if it's going to be too tough a task. I don't know whether the fact they're chasing the Champions League place might actually help Rangers a bit. Will that be their focus? The problem is, of course, as we all know, the final is in Bilbao, so there's that emotional incentive there for Athletic Bilbao. good team. Form's been a wee bit patchy. Rangers, goes without saying, they can't give up the chances they did against Dundee at Dens Park last week. That was just unbelievable. They've got Hibs on Saturday, obviously, final game before they play them. You'd have to think they would need to get a result at home to take to Spain. I don't think it's beyond them, I have to say.
The good thing about Rangers in Europe, they've got a kind of game plan that kind of works. I mean, I think they do have to kind of make it a bit of a basketball match again. Because I think defensively they're still a bit ropey, Rangers.
Yeah.
And they're going to concede chances, probably goals. But they've got a threat, especially on the counter-attack in Europe. So, I mean, they play the way they played. Make it one of these wacky high-scoring games again.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can get a 2-each or a 3-each draw in the first game at Ibrox, make it a wild night.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, they go to Spain and do the same again. It could be another one of these high-scoring wild jobs. Listen, I take your point. I think Bilbao having the final at home.
Yeah.
But then again, that's a pressure on them.
There is.
That's a pressure that maybe that is going to weigh on their shoulders.
Yeah.
So I think they've got every chance of getting to Spain with the ties that are alive.
Yeah. One man who will need to certainly improve his form is Jack Butland. Ropey again, Dens Park, as we were saying. His form has been, I mean, really for the last year, has been really, he's been off the boil, and yet he started his Rangers career so well. Do you think Rangers will have to look to replace him in the summer?
Well, listen, it all depends on. There's so much uncertainty at Rangers right now. We don't know who the management team is going to be, director of sport, all these kind of things. So it depends on who comes in and whether or not they fancy him. It has a concern, I think, for Rangers, because you look at his form last season, he was terrific. I mean, really top drawer, looked like every inch the kind of guy who played for England and been in the books at like Man United and that kind of stuff. I think the cup final. Well, actually, the game against Celtic, Ibrox, he let in a bad. I thought the third goal, the Adamida goal, was a wee bit ropey. Cup final, not great.
Ida again,
Ida again, and since then he has made some errors.
Man United, but the thing is, there's such huge blunders.
But even games when maybe not caused a goal. I think the game against St Mirren that eventually cost Kilmarnock his job. He had a couple of little nervy moments that set about the atmosphere changed, and it set the tone of the game. He's not been as reliable this season, that's for sure.
And also in Europe against Union Saint-Gilles, he got away with one. I don't know if you remember early on. The Belgians should have taken the lead. It was a mistake, and he actually got away with it because he got a free kick. He kind of bought a free kick, which I don't think was a free kick. So, but that's the other thing, Michael. Then we're pointing to so many. And you know what it's like with goalkeepers or any player, a few mistakes, or it's maybe down to confidence. But we're now talking about so many.
Well, this is the thing.
So is he now just a bad keeper?
No, he's not a bad keeper, that's for sure. He's proved it over a number of years. He's a top keeper.
But I mean now.
But goalkeepers are judged on not really the spectacular saves, it's the consistency. It's the absence of errors that make good goalkeepers. I mean, obviously you want them to make the saves, you want them to be a safe pair of hands, but it is that kind of absence of making the errors that make keepers so reliable. So when that goes, you think, well, that's a bit ropey. But I think it's the old adage. I think form is temporary, class is permanent. I think he will come back. I don't think he is the biggest concern in terms of a squad building in summer. I think he will come back again.
He would be helped by a solid defence. Would Greg Taylor crossing the divide from Celtic to Rangers help that? Is that possible? Well, of course it's possible.
I've seen this kind of slightly mischievous suggestion popping up this week. Obviously, Greg Taylor out of contract.
Is it mischievous?
Well,
we're led to believe he's a Rangers fan, wasn't it? When he signed for Celtic, it was kicking about he's a Rangers fan. So
listen, if you're talking about someone leaving Celtic and going straight to Rangers or vice versa, then it's obviously a kind of controversial one.
But when Mo Johnson, but surely all that changed because you don't get any bigger controversial circumstance than Mo Johnson going when he did. So if that happens, surely anything can happen.
Stephen Prez has done it. Kenny Miller done it a couple of times. But don't tend to go directly to the rivals. Listen, I think Greg Taylor. I think Celtic have. I think they've tried to keep him. I don't think Greg Taylor wants to be playing second fiddle to Kieran Tierney next season.
I understand that.
Yeah, at his age, he's at his peak of his career. I understand it. I don't think he'd be short of offers. I think he's been a great servant for Celtic, a top player. If it wasn't for the fact that he had Tierney and Andy Robertson, he'd be a Scotland international. He's got caps, obviously. I think he'd be a regular. I think he would do I think he would be a terrific sign for Rangers. Can I see it? I think Greg. I think maybe the hassle might have immediate kind of hassle it cause.
He's recently become a father, hasn't he?
Yeah,
So,
I don't think he needs the grief of it. Might come along with it.
But he's been linked with. I mean, look, he's not going to struggle to get a club, right?
No.
But he's been linked. You know, Dino Zagreb have been sniffing around. That's how. I mean, would you go to Croatia ahead of staying at home? And
but you're staying at home. I mean, like you say, they kind of the baggage that comes along with that kind of move. He's we know him a wee bit. He's a good down to earth guy, and you think would he be bothered with that kind of nonsense?
Did Kenny Miller get that much grief after he done it? I mean, could he not walk the streets?
Yeah, but again, he didn't go directly.
He didn't go direct
either, and he'd been at Rangers before, and then went back.
Okay.
And so,
but did he get grief from Celtic fans?
I think he probably did. Right. I think he probably did, but I don't think he wasn't quite the servant that Greg Taylor. I mean, Greg Taylor's won a lot of stuff. I mean, he's been a big player for Celtic for a long time. I just think I can see him going maybe down to England or maybe something like America or something like that. I could see that happening. But
America would be decent.
Rangers should be thinking about a cheeky bid, that's for sure, because he is a top player, and it's a left back position that Rangers probably could be looking at in the summer as well.
But wherever Greg Taylor goes, he will be a loss to Celtic, as you say. Hugely influential player. So if Greg Taylor is leaving, as Brendan Rodgers expects, Mike Narowski, could he have bought himself more time at Parkhead? He looked so far out the picture, and now he's come in and...
Yeah, he's come in. I thought he did okay against Rangers. I don't think he was great. I think a few people said he was like the best player. I thought he did okay.
I saw him get a lot of stick from, I think it was Johan Mjalby and somebody else actually picking holes in his performance against Rangers.
I think he's done okay.
Did people go over the score with his Rangers display?
I think a wee bit. I think he's done okay, but Celtic were pretty poor defensively on the day. But
what against Hearts last week?
I thought he was decent again. I think the only concern with him is longer term. I don't know if he's quick enough on the ball for a Brendan Rodgers and a Brendan Rodgers team either. I think he's pretty solid enough in terms of on one-on-ones and winning the ball in the air and that kind of thing. I think he's okay. I think he's pretty decent. He's still quite a youngish guy as well. He's got plenty of potential. I just don't know if he's got that kind of ball playing ability that Rodgers likes in his centre halves.
And Brendan Rodgers was honest enough to say he prefers a left footer, doesn't he, on that side?
Yeah.
That's why Austin Trusty and
Liam
Scales have been.
Yeah.
But you're not telling me that Narowski wouldn't have been a better option than Liam Scales at points this season. Why do you think?
No, I don't agree with that. I think Liam Scales is a more accomplished player than Mike Narowski.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Liam Scales.
He's had some poor games.
He's had a couple of poor games, but that's the guy who was in the PFA player, the team of the year last season.
But Narowski was just completely overlooked.
Yeah,
even when there were times when Scales had games where fans were saying he should be dropped. Why do you think Narowski just stayed on the bench? Just purely because?
Well, Rodgers sees him every day in training and sees and I think Liam Scales is better the ball with his feet and coming out from the back and building the play. I think Liam Scales, this is a guy who's also now international for Ireland. He's very rarely let Celtic down. Liam Scales, he's not the sexiest of signings, but I think he's been a good signing for Celtic, and he's done pretty well. I think he's still above in the pecking order. I think Austin Trusty is still the one that's going to be the main partner for Carter Vickers.
But Narowski's shot to lose. Yes.
No, I think he'll play a few games, but I think he'll be gone.
Right.
I think he'll be gone in the summer.
Okay.
I expect him to move on in the summer.
Okay.
But listen, we're getting to that point of the season. It's the business end. Big games coming thick and fast. Celtic, you've got to think, are honing in on the title at this stage.
You think?
Well, I mean, I'm not a betting man, but I would, if I had a pound, I'd be putting it on Celtic to win the title now. I think a few people thought it was going to happen by this weekend.
Yeah.
And they've got St Johnstone on Sunday. St Johnstone.
Well, that looked like it being the date, didn't it?
It did look a few weeks ago
until Celtic lost the derby.
Exactly. So St Johnstone, they threw open the doors to McDermott Park and said to Celtic fans, you can take the 3 stands for your big title party, which is no longer happening. Was that this is a big talking point in Scottish football? The away ticket fans allowances. Were St Johnstone right to throw open the gates to St McDermott for Celtic?
I must admit, I think I'm going to contradict myself a bit, because I think for this game, I think St Johnstone were probably wrong, but that's because of, the circumstances. St Johnstone, I understand.
Finished a quick buck, didn't they?
Well, I understand that, and listen, it makes good business sense, but St Johnstone are rock bottom of the league. absolutely fighting for their lives. 3 points. Well, it's going to be a tall order anyway to beat Celtic at home, but they're going to have less chance, you would assume, if it's going to be like a home game for Celtic. So I think in this occasion they probably should have. But generally speaking, there's nothing worse than seeing empty stands when the cameras are there. I just think it's a terrible look, and just
the worst thing about empty stands is when there's empty seats and people who want to fill them. This is the thing. We in this country, we actually turn people away from games.
It's unbelievable.
We say to them, "You can't come in," and then there's empty seats. It's ridiculous. I think clubs need to concentrate on selling their own fans tickets first of all. And if they can't do that, then they should be selling those seats to people who want these seats.
Definitely.
But we've got a huge passion for football in this country. People desperate to go to games. By the way, people are way overcharged for the product they get, and yet they still want to pay it. And yet we're going like that. No, we're putting up no entry signs when there's empty seats. I think that's crazy. And if people are moaning about, there's more away fans than their home fans, well, start selling more tickets to home fans. Generate interest in your own clubs. Get out there and the young people in the communities and all that stuff, and get interest in your club. It's what teams like St Mirren have done a great job at doing it. And I get a lot of these clubs don't like the games against Celtic and Rangers because they tend to get beat. They don't like some of the baggage that comes along with it. But again, if you've got one of your own punters in that seat, it doesn't matter because they're not going to be there. So sort your own house out first. If not, sell the seat. That's the way I see it.
One man who probably wouldn't want more fans in right now because it will probably lead to more abuse because he's been getting a bit of stick is Derek McInnes. 5-1 thumping by St Mirren last week. A bit of soapy bubble. Is he under pressure?
Well, he is under pressure, isn't he? I mean, like it or lump it in football, it's a fickle business. It's peacocks and feather dusters, isn't it? And at the moment, he's getting a wee bit of stick from a fair chunk of Kilmarnock fans because they're worried about the season's going. I think it's 5 games without a win. As you say, get thumped at the weekend.
Listen, if they lose to Motherwell this weekend, Michael, huge trouble. They play Celtic the following weekend, who, as you said earlier, closing in on the title. They're very unlikely to get anything there. They lose to Motherwell this weekend, real problems.
They could be in real bother. I mean, obviously Dundee losing a last-minute goal last week against Rangers kept them at that relegation playoff spot. But listen, you've got to take a step back. I mean, Derek McInnes has worked wonders at Kilmarnock. Done a great job.
That's the thing.
Got them promotion, got them into Europe. I mean, turned them into a right good side. This year's not been a great season. They've had problems with injuries to key guys. You got Kyle Vassell being out, Stuart Finlay, guys and performers that were top drawer last year that haven't quite hit.
Danny Armstrong.
He's
probably one of the best.
Matty Kennedy, Dave Watson. They haven't really hit the heights. Marley Watkins not hit the heights they hit last year.
How many times do you see that? A team does so well, finishes fourth, and then the following season.
But listen, I think they've got to have I think McInnes should have enough credit in the bank to be trusted to get them out of this, and not only trusted to get them out of it, to be trusted to go back in the summer and rebuild, because there's very few guys in the game who are as good at rebuilding, maybe on a budget as well sometimes, and he's got contacts and bringing in solid players who know the British game and the Scottish game and do a turn for them. So I think they need to just keep their nerve, trust the manager, get through this next few weeks, stay in the division, and then get to the summer, and then they can look forward to a different season next season. But they're going to have to realise, these players need to realise they are now in a dogfight at the bottom.
That's why that post split is going to be fascinating.
Well, it's going to be an absolute bun fight, isn't it? As it always does. But we'll swiftly move on as well. Did you see the Victor Wanyama's debut for Dunfermline?
You could not have written it.
I mean, it was like the big kind of build up, and then I think it lasted 20 minutes.
He fell flat in his face, literally.
Slipped flat in his face, threw an arm, red card. Not the best of debuts. But listen, we've got a history in this country of bringing in kind of ageing superstars, and it's been a mixed bag, haven't they? Some of these guys. Well, who's been the best, and we'll maybe touch on the worst as well, who's been the best ageing superstar that's washed up on these shores?
I think probably, for me, I would say Claudio Caniggia. Huge name, his goals helped Argentina get to the World Cup final, 1999,
Yeah,
that crazy period in Dundee. I mean, bringing him in 10 grand a week, you just couldn't believe Claudio Caniggia in Dundee. But I think that's why, for me, he's probably been the best, because he could easily have just turned up, pocketed the cash like so many of them, that we've seen so many of them do. But he still had that hunger, and he did so well that he was a contender for the Player of the Year, then gets a move to Rangers on the back of it, and still he won five major trophies, and I think he was 36 when he left, and that was on the back of helping Rangers win a treble that season. I think he could definitely have a season more. In fact, I think he claimed at the time he was promised an extra season, and said Alan Clee should reneged on that. But I think for me, Caniggia, just for wow factor.
I think so. I mean, Frank Sauzet at Hibs, Lagod at Hibs. What's a guy? I mean, you think back. I mean, this is a guy who won the European Cup with Marseille, albeit in slightly dodgy circumstances. It turns out.
Yeah.
And then because he rocks up at Hibs, who were at that time in the first division, the Championship, helps them get promotion. Gets them at, I think third place. Got to a Scottish Cup final.
That's right.
3 years he played at Hibs. I mean, and he's still to this day viewed like a hero. Yeah. He was a great one. I mean, Joe Hart at Celtic. Joe Hart, 75 caps for England. Golden Gloves winner, Man City league title winner. Coming in at 35, 36, and having 3 great seasons at Celtic. Leaves a hero, big banners and all that stuff. There's been some pretty dodgy ones as well, hasn't there?
Juninho.
No, again, I think he maybe in the category, but then you look at guys like your Freddie Ljungbergs and Carlton Coles and Felix Sinderos, Bruno Alves, these guys that come in with big reputations and big global superstars, and they bombed completely in Scotland. But Wanyama has still got time to rescue it. Obviously, he's been a great player over the years, and he might come good for Neil Lennon.
This Saturday, Michael, one of the biggest dates in the British sporting calendar, the Grand National. You can't beat the excitement. So, what have you got for us?
Right. Well, we're looking for a bit of value, aren't we? A wee bit of money to be made. I think my tip for an outsider, a wee dark horse, Nick Rocket, Willie Mullins' horse. Maybe not the one people be fancying. Obviously, he won it last year. He was back in again. I just think, well, it's another thing. It reminds me when I was working down England. My press pass was the wrong name on my football league press pass. It was Nick Cannon. So rather than Mick Gannon, it was Nick Cannon. I still got it at the house somewhere. So Nick Rocket sounds a bit like my alter ego, Nick Cannon. So it's a wee bit of kind of
I like that.
a draw to it for me. But I think you get 25 to 1.
Good.
So yeah, it's a nice little tale. Obviously, it's owned by a couple of Irish owners. The fella, I think, lost his wife a few years ago, and then the horse started winning races after that, and the memory of his wife is always there.
Oh yeah.
So there's a wee bit of emotional attachment as well. So that'd be a nice one.
I'm going to give you an emotional one as well. Emotional story, and part owned by Sir Alex Ferguson, no less. Hitman 150 to 1. I'm going to raise you 151. The jockey, only 19-year-old, and
on the nose.
No, let's go each way. Let's not get carried away. But actually, an emotional story. The jockey, only 19, Freddie Gingell. And he lost his mum to cancer. She was only 43. He was still at school. I read an interview with him saying everything he does now or aims to achieve in the sport is in her memory. I think it would be a great story if he could. Well, as I say, 150 to 1. I mean, even if you're getting in the top 4.
We know you're a big horse racing guy, Gavin, and your current. Obviously, you did Benidorm for Cheltenham. Are you going to get back to Benidorm for the entry festival? Yeah.
No, I don't think I'll get that one past the wife.
Have you been down to the National before, done entry for the National?
Once, I did it once. Great experience. Good to take it off. I think Cheltenham's better. I think Cheltenham's a better occasion, but I think it's a one-off day, the Grand Nationals.
And have you won us through the years at National?
No.
Never?
No. So just ignore that last tip.
No, I think my last one would have been the 80s, I think, or something like that, the 1880s.
But you're the golf man, Mick, so to round off.
We're talking dark horses, aren't we?
So, dark horses. So the Masters, just a couple of weeks away?
Listen, that week next week starts the Masters. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Right, so give us a bet for that as well. We can double it up with your Grand National tip.
Excuse me. You don't tend to get dark horses win the Masters. It tends to be a course that the tried and tested tend to do well on.
Rory?
Well, everyone's looking at Rory. Won the Players' Championship a few weeks ago. He's been in good form this season. You've got Scotty Scheffler, world number 1, who's going to be. He's got the green jacket and all that stuff. You're looking for a bit. So I think you've got to look at these two. I mean, it'd be great if they two were working down the back nine Sunday, fighting it out. It'd be brilliant. I'd love to see Rory doing it. But I've got a wee fancy. I mean, I think the Åberg, I think is the Swedish lad is a good one. He's got the swing he's got. I mean, as an amateur duffer, that's the swing. If you could copy any swing, it'd be his swing. Great mentality. I just think he's going to knock off one of these majors at some point, and I think it could be this one. He's definitely got the temperament. He's got the game. If he gets hot with a putter, I think he'd be a great shout. But the Masters is always something special. Colin Morikawa is another one to keep an eye out. He's hitting form at a good time as well.
What about mine? Justin Thomas. He's missed the cut actually the last 2 years, but he just seems to be. He's been there or thereabouts, and this year he's 22-1. The other one I was going to say was Shane Lowry, 35-1.
Shane Lowry is always a good bet for majors. Always there and thereabouts. Justin Thomas, interesting one because he's been really off the boil last year. I mean, he's really struggling for about 18 months. But he's shown signs of coming back. He came close. A few weeks ago, he just kind of stumbled at the finishing line.
He did. But do you not find sometimes with the winners of the majors, when you look back at their form, it's that kind of there or thereabouts?
Definitely, definitely. You see a lot of guys that will win in the months building up to the Masters, because it is an event. You need to be, every part of the game has to be. I mean, it looks like it's a test of golf. But you need to hold a few putts, that's for sure. So it's like, talk about Rory, he's got to get the putter to work if he wants to win the Masters. But listen, these a couple of Masters here are going to wrap it up for today. Listen, but thank you as always for watching. We'll be back next week. You can catch us on Spotify, on YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, all that kind of jazz. If you're watching, leave a wee comment for us. It's always grateful to receive. But we'll see you again next week. We'll do it all again.
Thanks, mate.